I knew today would be awkward, but I didn't expect it to hurt this much. Alex, are you even listening? Mom's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. Her eyes were sharp, judgmental, scanning me like I was some project she could reject at will. I'm listening, I said, trying to sound polite. Inside I was seething. Mom sighed dramatically, leaning back in her chair like I was a failure on display. Really? Because from what I see, Ethan over there is clearly excelling in everything. Grades, manners, charm. Her gaze flicked to my cousin, who sat grinning, smug as if he owned the world. I forced a smile, swallowed the bitterness, and mumbled, "Yeah, Ethan's great." Dad chuckled, the kind of laugh that made my stomach twist. It's not just that he's great. He's impressive. Alex, I don't know why you keep trying. Maybe you're just not cut out for her. Cut out for what? I snapped louder than I intended. The room went quiet. My aunt and uncle across the table froze mid-bite. Cut out for life? Cut out for success? What does that even mean? Mom's lips tightened, but she didn't answer. Dad waved a dismissive hand, turning back to Ethan. Don't mind him. He'll grow into it someday, maybe? I felt heat crawl up my neck. Maybe I wasn't cut out. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted me to feel. I looked down at my plate. The food was tasteless, the conversation even worse. Family friends chatted around us, nodding at Ethan's every word. I caught one whisper, "Such a promising boy," and another, "Alex seems quiet." Quiet. A polite word for useless, I thought. I clenched my fists under the table. Ethan leaned over, smiling that arrogant, infuriating smile. Relax, Alex. You don't have to impress anyone. Just sit there and, breathe. I forced a laugh that didn't reach my eyes. Thanks, Ethan. Very helpful. He shrugged. Just being honest. Honest. They called it honesty, I called it humiliation. The room erupted in laughter over some story Ethan told. Everyone laughed, including my parents. I smiled tightly, pretending it was funny, while inside my mind raced. I thought of Sophie. Of course she wasn't here. Sophie always had this way of seeing me, not as a disappointment, not as a project, but as capable. She believed I could do something amazing even when my own blood couldn't see it. I remembered her words yesterday, softly, as we walked home from school. Alex, don't let them define you. You're better than what they see. Her voice was a small anchor in the storm of shame. But how could I hold on to that when every word today was like a punch to the gut? Dad leaned over, lowering his voice so only I could hear. Alex, don't take it personally. Ethan's always had the knack for this, social things. You have to focus on something else. Something else. I repeated, my jaw tight. Like what, Dad? What exactly am I good for? He sighed and waved me off. You'll figure it out. You always do, eventually. I wanted to throw the plate across the room. I wanted to scream at everyone that I could do more than Ethan. That I had ideas, plans, visions they'd never understand. But I stayed quiet. Because that's what I had learned. Quiet keeps the peace even when the peace is crushing you. After dessert, as everyone lingered for conversation and compliments, I excused myself. I think I'll take a walk, I muttered. No one protested. Outside, the cold air hit my face. The city lights shimmered against the dark sky. I walked aimlessly, the echo of laughter from inside the house ringing in my ears. And then I saw her, Sophie. She was sitting on the park bench, sketchbook on her lap, pencil moving fast across the page. She looked up, caught my eye, and smiled. That small smile made my chest ache with relief. Alex? Hey, she called, waving. I hesitated, then walked over. Hey, my voice sounded rough, tired. You look upset, she said, closing her sketchbook. Valentine's dinner again? I groaned. You could say that. More like humiliation dinner. Sophie laughed softly. Sounds about right. You okay? Does it look like I'm okay? I snapped, then regretted it. I didn't want her to see me this angry, this weak. She studied me for a moment. You're stronger than you think, you know that? I frowned. Strong? Mom and Dad called me useless. Ethan, everything goes right for him. Sophie shook her head. That's their problem, not yours. You have something they don't see. Something bigger. I swallowed hard. Bigger? Like what? She shrugged, playful but serious. Your brain, Alex. Your ideas. Your drive. I see it. And trust me, one day you're going to surprise them all. Her words hit me like a spark. Surprise them, make them regret, maybe even make them fear what I could become. I looked at her, grateful for this small pocket of hope. Thanks, Sophie. I needed that. She smiled, nudging my shoulder. Anytime. Don't let them win. You're meant for more. I walked a little farther with her, feeling a strange mixture of comfort and fire rising inside me. Fire that whispered, I won't be weak. I won't be forgotten. I'll show them. Sophie laughed at something I said, something small, something trivial. And for the first time today I laughed too. It wasn't full of anger or shame. It was a quiet, determined laugh. As I returned home later that night, I stood outside my parents' window watching them laugh with friends. Inside I felt cold but also sharp. Clear. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow I start planning. Not just for school, not just for grades, but for life. For me. For revenge. I would build something they could never ignore. Something they couldn't laugh at. Something that would make them wish they had believed in me when they had the chance. And maybe, just maybe, I'd make Ethan realize how foolish he looked. But first I needed a plan. And for that I needed everything. I didn't sleep much that night. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the hum of the heater sounded like a mocking laugh. I kept thinking about my parents, about Ethan, about every word that pierced me at that dinner. I whispered to myself, I can't stay here, not one more second. I went to my father's study while he and Mom were asleep. My hands shook, but I forced myself to be calm. His desk was massive, filled with papers I barely understood, and a locked drawer at the far right. I picked the lock I'd been eyeing for weeks, careful, precise. My heart thumped in my ears as the drawer clicked open. Inside were envelopes, bills, and a thick envelope of cash. I swallowed hard. This is it, I muttered. I took only what I needed, not greedy, just enough to start. Every note felt like a key to freedom. I didn't feel bad, not yet. I felt alive. The next morning I told Mom I was going out for errands. She didn't even look up from her phone. You're late for school, she said without real concern. Traffic, I lied. I'll be back soon. She waved me off. Try not to embarrass yourself, Alex. I smiled tightly and walked out the door. The city beyond our neighborhood looked endless, like a promise. I'd never felt so small and so determined at the same time. At the bus station, I watched the vehicles roar past. I had saved enough for a one-way ticket. I pulled the envelope from my pocket. This is it, I whispered. No turning back. The bus ride was long, filled with the clatter of wheels and the murmur of strangers. I didn't talk. I stared out the window, watching trees blur into buildings. My mind raced, courses I could take, apartments I could rent, ways I could make money fast. And then I called Sophie. I needed to hear her voice. Alex. Her tone was bright, but I could hear the worry under it. I'm leaving, I said, my words quick. I can't stay here. I need to go now for everything. There was silence on the other end. Are you sure? She asked softly. Yes, I said a little too firmly. I have to do this. I can't. I won't stay small, Sophie. Not like this. Not ever again. She hesitated, then said, I get it. I'm scared for you, but I believe in you. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise, I said, even though I knew I might not be. Her voice was a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone was against me. Write me, okay? Letters, messages, anything. I will. I felt a small warmth inside, like a candle in the dark. We hung up and I stared out the window again, thinking about the city waiting for me. Freedom, opportunity, revenge, they all blurred together into one sharp point. When I arrived, the first thing I did was find the business school I'd researched for weeks. I walked in head high, acting like I belonged. I want to enroll, I said to the receptionist. Age? She asked. 17, I said. I can handle it. I'm serious about this. She raised an eyebrow but didn't question me. All right. Fill out these forms and we'll see. I filled them out with a hand that didn't shake this time. I felt capable. That evening I wandered the city streets, unfamiliar but thrilling. Neon signs flickered above cafes and shops, people bustled past, and I felt free. Alone but free. And then I saw him. A man leaning against a brick wall, dressed in casual leather, eyes sharp and calculating. He watched me more than he noticed the street. I noticed him noticing me. You lost, kid? His voice was gravelly, low but not unkind. I frowned. Depends on who's asking. Marcus. He held out a hand. I work with startups, businesses, small fish trying to swim in the big pond. I hesitated. And you want what from me? Nothing, he said with a smirk. I want to see if you're worth my time. You look ambitious, hungry. Maybe you've got something. I studied him, skeptical. Hungry? Yeah. You don't belong where you came from, do you? His eyes bore into mine. I see it. I see the fire. You need guidance, kid. I can give it, if you're willing to learn. I paused. Something about him was unsettling, but I couldn't deny the pull. And if I refuse? He shrugged. Then you stay small. Or get eaten alive. Your choice. I felt my chest tighten. All right, I said finally. I'll listen. Marcus's smile widened. Good. First lesson, trust no one completely. Everyone will try to use you, betray you, or underestimate you. You survive by learning faster than they do. I nodded, a knot of fear and excitement twisting inside me. This was exactly what I needed, and exactly what scared me. As the sun set, we walked through the streets, Marcus talking about investments, risks, strategies, and I listened, absorbing every word. I was learning to think like someone who could win, someone who could fight back. That night, alone in my tiny rented room, I pulled out a notebook. I wrote a plan. Enroll in courses, learn everything, save money, make contacts, grow power. Revenge was still a shadow, but it was beginning to take shape. I missed Sophie and I called her again just to hear her voice. Alex, she said softly. Are you okay? I'm alive, I admitted. Scared but alive. I'm starting something. I'll come back, stronger. You'll see. I believe in you, she whispered. Just, don't lose yourself in the process. I won't, I promised. And I meant it. I wouldn't lose myself. I would become something greater than they ever imagined. I lay down on the hard mattress, staring at the ceiling. My heart was racing, mind buzzing. The first step was done. I had left home. I had stolen a chance. And tomorrow I would start building the rest. Tomorrow I would begin climbing. The city never slept and neither did I. I had learned that survival didn't care about comfort or rest. Money was tight, more than I thought it would be. Every day was a scramble. Tuition, rent, food, small expenses all piling on. I can't keep borrowing from Marcus forever, I muttered to myself, pacing the tiny room I'd rented. You don't have to do it alone, Marcus's voice echoed in my memory. He'd said it yesterday, leaning against my tiny kitchen counter, cigarette smoke curling around him like a shadow. You're smart, kid. You just need leverage. Find the right people, use your head, and the money will follow. I glared at the notebook open on my desk. Plans, projections, contacts, my lifeline. Leverage, huh? Easier said than done. Marcus laughed when I complained about my classmates trying to steal ideas. Kid, everyone wants to eat what you cook before it's even ready. You gotta be faster, sneakier. Move first or you get eaten. That's business. Life doesn't wait. I know, I snapped. But it's frustrating. Good, he said, lighting his cigarette. Frustration makes you sharper if you let it. I remembered Ethan's smile, his effortless charm back home. The way my parents had clapped, laughed, rewarded him. It burned in me. I won't be like him, I muttered. I can't. You're not him, Marcus said. You never were. Stop comparing. Use it, don't complain about it. The first investment came with sweat, begging, and sleepless nights. I had convinced a small investor to give me the smallest capital I could work with. Enough to make something happen, but just barely. You sure this is enough? I asked Marcus, staring at the numbers. Sure, he laughed. Kid, it's enough to start. If you make the money, they'll give you more. If you fail, they'll take your shirt. Your call. I hate this feeling, I admitted. Every step is so fragile. That's life, he said, tossing the cigarette butt into the sink. Fragile is where you grow. Stop whining. I forced myself to breathe, staring at the projections on my notebook. Numbers, percentages, potential returns, they were my only friends right now. And then she walked into my life. Isabella. Alex Carter? She asked, her voice smooth and confident. I looked up. She was poised, elegant, and sharp. Yes. I'm Isabella Grant, she said, extending a hand. I heard you're working on something interesting. Thought I'd see for myself. Interesting, or overambitious? I asked, trying to mask my nerves. She laughed lightly. Ambition is never a crime. I invest in people who know what they want, and who aren't afraid to reach for it. I felt my chest tighten. Someone finally seeing potential in me besides Marcus and Sophie. I have a proposal, I said cautiously. It's small, but it could grow. She raised an eyebrow. Small is good. Small mistakes, small risks. Big mistakes? Big losses. I'm willing to take the risk, I said, trying to sound confident. Good, she said, studying my face. Because I don't invest in people who hesitate. Hesitation kills. Her words left me both exhilarated and uneasy. There was something intoxicating about ambition when it came wrapped in charm. I need guidance, I admitted finally. I can't afford to make mistakes that ruin everything. I need someone who knows the ropes. Isabella tilted her head, thoughtful. You already have Marcus for that. But guidance can only go so far. At some point you decide what kind of player you want to be. I nodded slowly. I want to win. No, I need to win. Good, she said, smiling slightly. We'll see if you can. Her presence lingered even after she left. I realized ambition could be contagious, dangerous, and thrilling, all at once. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of the city, not because of the work, but because of her. I thought of how easily she moved, how sure she was, how much power she commanded without effort. And I wanted that, not just her attention, not just her approval, but that kind of control. I called Sophie. I needed her voice to balance my spiraling thoughts. Alex? It's late, she said softly. Are you okay? I met someone, I said. Someone dangerous. In a good way. Dangerous. She sounded concerned. Yes, I admitted. She's smart, ambitious. She sees potential. And I feel like I could learn from her. I have to. Just don't lose yourself, she whispered. You're still you, Alex. Don't let ambition make you someone you're not. I won't, I said firmly. I need to grow. I have to. One day. I'll show everyone what they missed. She didn't respond right away. Then softly, I believe in you. I let her words sink in. I believed in me too. Or at least I would. I thought I had finally caught my rhythm. The business was steady, not booming yet, but enough that I could breathe without constantly counting pennies. The office smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink, and the hum of computers felt like a lullaby to my ambition. Alex, can I run something by you? Daniel's voice sounded casual, but something in it made me uneasy. Sure, I said, not looking up from the spreadsheets I was reviewing. What is it? He leaned against my desk, arms crossed. I found an opportunity. It's big. Bigger than what we're doing now. I think we could flip it and triple our returns. I raised an eyebrow. Triple? That's ambitious. What's the catch? Just trust me on this, he said smoothly. You won't regret it. I frowned. Daniel had been with me since day one. Loyal, or so I thought. I've got to review the details. Show me numbers, projections, anything. Of course, he said, handing over a neatly bound folder. But just between us, Alex, this is something I trust you with. You're the only one I'd run it by first. I felt a flicker of warmth. Trust. Something I hadn't felt much of in life. My chest swelled briefly with pride. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I didn't notice it then, not really. For the next few days I pored over the data. Every number, every risk, every possible return. And I realized it was perfect. Too perfect. Marcus, I said one evening, pacing in my cramped apartment, this opportunity Daniel brought, it's almost unreal. Marcus leaned back in his chair, cigarette in hand. Unreal is a warning sign, kid. Unreal is also an invitation to disaster. Don't get too comfortable. I've double-checked everything. It seems solid, I said, though a nagging doubt remained. Double-checking doesn't make people honest. You trust too easily. I trust the wrong people, I muttered, remembering my parents and Ethan. I keep doing that. Exactly, Marcus said, exhaling smoke. You learn the hard way or you stay weak. Your choice. I went home that night, folder clutched against my chest, trying to shake off the unease. I couldn't help thinking about the late nights, the stress, the money riding on this venture. And Daniel's calm confidence gnawed at me. The next morning I walked into the office ready to finalize the venture. And that's when I saw it. Daniel at my computer, hands flying over the keyboard, a sly grin on his face. What are you? I started, but he spun around, face innocent. Alex, I was just checking something for you. You know, making sure everything's ready. I felt my stomach drop. My files. Daniel. They're fine, I swear. Just reorganizing for efficiency, he said too smoothly. I took a step closer, heart hammering. This isn't reorganizing. This is stealing. What the hell are you doing? He leaned back, hands raised, mock surrender style. Stealing? Alex, come on. I'm helping myself, yeah, but I'm also helping you. Think of it as expanding influence. I couldn't breathe. Betrayal, sharp, searing betrayal. Daniel, someone I counted on, someone I trusted, he was trying to take everything I'd worked for. Marcus. I shouted into my phone, fingers trembling. I think Daniel, he's trying to steal the venture. He lied. Calm down, Marcus said instantly, voice cold and precise. Step back. Don't make this emotional. It's exactly the lesson you needed. What lesson? He's betraying me. Exactly. Trust is earned, not given, Marcus said. You're learning whether you like it or not. Don't let anger make you stupid. I gritted my teeth. I trusted him. And that's your problem, Marcus snapped. You trust. You shouldn't. Not fully. Not until they bleed for it. I sank into my chair, head spinning. Daniel's grin felt like a knife in my gut. My hands shook as I tried to steady my breathing. I can't believe this. You will. And you'll use it, Marcus said, voice low and cutting. Pain is fuel. Use it, Alex. Don't cry over it. Don't complain. Fix it, plan it, execute it, or get eaten alive. I clenched my fists, letting the anger course through me. Pain, humiliation, shock, it all blurred into a sharp, clear determination. I'm going to take it back, I muttered. And then, I'm going to make sure he can't ever do this again. Marcus laughed softly. That's the spirit. Subtlety, patience, timing. Don't rush. People show you their weaknesses and you exploit them. That's how you survive. That's how you win. I stared at Daniel, who was pretending to work, oblivious to the storm inside me. I need to watch him, I said quietly. Every move. Every step. No slip-ups. Yes, Marcus said approvingly. You're learning. I spent the next few days monitoring Daniel. Emails, calls, financial transactions. Anything suspicious. My heart pounded every time he made a move. And I realized something terrifying. This felt familiar. This betrayal mirrored my childhood, my parents, Ethan. The people I'd trusted who had laughed at me, humiliated me, left me to feel worthless. I can't rely fully on anyone, I whispered to myself, pacing late at night. Not Daniel, not Marcus, not Sophie. No one. Yet the fire in me burned brighter than ever. The unfairness of life, the sting of betrayal, it all fed my resolve. I would rebuild. I would regain control. And Daniel, he would regret crossing me. The first taste of real vengeance was intoxicating. I hardly recognized myself anymore. The boy who had trembled under his parents' judgment, who had hesitated at every turn, had vanished. In his place stood someone deliberate, calculated, confident. A man who had learned how to bend the world to his will. Marcus had taught me ruthlessness. Isabella had sharpened my ambition, and betrayal had made me cautious. But I needed more than lessons. I needed a team. Liam, you're in, I said, extending a hand to the wiry young man with a permanent smudge of ink on his cheek. Your coding skills are exceptional. We need that edge. Liam's eyes lit up. You won't regret it. I can build systems no one can touch. Good, I said. I don't want regrets. Only results. Next came Olivia, sitting with a stack of legal books in a tiny cafe, casually reading as if the world could wait. Alex Carter? She said, looking up at me with sharp green eyes. Yes, I said, sliding into the chair opposite her. I need someone who knows the law better than anyone. Someone precise, unyielding. I am precise, she said, smirking. And unyielding comes with the territory. What's the challenge? I smiled, a small curve that didn't reach my eyes. I want to make sure nothing, or no one, can touch me. Ever again. Olivia raised an eyebrow. You sound ambitious. I am, I said. I've been patient but now I build. And I need allies who aren't afraid to bend rules when necessary. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. I'll take the job. But remember, Alex, power exposes weaknesses. Don't let your ego blind you. I didn't answer. She was right, but I didn't have the patience to discuss philosophy right now. Finally, Nina, strategist, voice of persuasion, PR genius. I found her at a networking event, commanding attention without saying much. You're Alex Carter? She asked, voice smooth and calm. Yes, I said, impressed despite myself. I need someone who can make the world see what I want them to see. Influence perception. She smiled faintly. I can do that. But perception is fragile. You'll need me, but you'll also need to trust that I won't manipulate you too much. I can handle it, I said. And I could. I had learned how to handle people, emotions, and even betrayal. With the team assembled, the first year of empire building began. I delegated, strategized, and watched carefully. Every move was calculated. Every investment measured. But part of me still thought about Ethan. I'd started small, subtle sabotage at first. Nothing overt, just enough to test my instincts, feel the thrill of subtle power. Alex, Liam said one evening, eyes glued to his screen, I noticed some unusual activity in Ethan's new venture. Shall I dig deeper? Do it, I said calmly, heart pounding. Not to destroy, yet. Just to learn. He nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. Got it? Tracing patterns now. It's interesting. I leaned back, sipping a coffee, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and guilt. I wasn't hurting anyone directly, just maneuvering pieces, nudging events, seeing the ripple effect. Isabella arrived that night, her presence electric in the room. Alex, you've changed, she said softly, circling me. More controlled. More dangerous. I smiled faintly. It's necessary. I can't be weak anymore. She studied me, eyes sharp. And yet, sometimes you hesitate. I've seen it. I hesitate for strategy, not weakness, I said. Everything I do now, I calculate. Every move counts. Her lips curved. I like the new you. But don't lose the boy underneath. He's intriguing. I felt a flicker of warmth. Complicated. Dangerous. She wasn't just an ally, she was a challenge, a temptation. I had to be careful. Enough philosophy, I said, shaking my head. We have work. The team laughed softly, used to my abrupt focus. Liam, Olivia, and Nina were brilliant, loyal, each adding depth to my vision. But I reminded myself constantly, loyalty is earned, not given. At night, in the quiet of my apartment, I thought of Sophie. I hadn't spoken to her as much as I wanted. Ambition, empire building, revenge, they consumed me. Yet, her voice in my head reminded me I wasn't just a machine. I still had a conscience, still had someone who saw me as Alex, not just power. I pored over strategies, plotting the next subtle moves against Ethan. I wasn't reckless, I had learned patience. I didn't need to destroy him now, I needed to test, to observe, to manipulate. One evening, Isabella leaned over my shoulder as I reviewed a market analysis. You're thinking about Ethan again, she said softly. I am, I admitted. Not recklessly. Just measuring. Revenge is a dangerous drug, she murmured. It tastes sweet at first, but eventually it consumes you. I know, I said, gaze fixed on the numbers. But I need to prove something. To myself. To everyone who ever doubted me. She smiled faintly. Then prove it. But remember, don't lose yourself along the way. I didn't answer, letting the tension hang. She was right, but I wasn't done yet. I had come too far to stop now. I stepped off the taxi and looked around my old neighborhood. Nothing had changed, same streets, same houses, same air of pretentious pride. But I wasn't the same. I felt taller, stronger, sharper. Years of struggle, betrayal, and calculated victories had molded me into something they couldn't even recognize. Alex Carter? A familiar voice called softly. I turned and saw Sophie. She looked the same, warm smile, kind eyes, but there was a caution there I hadn't noticed before. Life hadn't broken her, but it had taught her to measure the world carefully. Sophie, I said, letting a small smile touch my lips. It's been a while. She studied me as if weighing the changes. It really has. You look different. Confident. I've learned to survive, I said casually. And thrive. She laughed lightly, but it was tinged with worry. I always knew you could. But you look focused. Almost dangerous. Focus is necessary when you've been underestimated your whole life, I said. My gaze swept past her, toward the house I'd grown up in. My parents' prideful laughter, Ethan's arrogance, the social circle that had mocked me, all of it came rushing back. You're thinking about them, Sophie said quietly. I nodded, my jaw tight. They haven't changed either. Still the same shallow pride, still rewarding arrogance over substance. Still blind. Sophie frowned. Be careful, Alex. You've changed. I can feel it. Don't lose yourself in the past. I haven't, I said, though even I wasn't entirely sure. I'm here to see them. Observe. And to make them see me in a way they never did before. She tilted her head, cautious but supportive. Revenge. Justice, I corrected, letting the word linger. A chance to show them the difference between who they thought I was and who I became. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she offered a small smile. I trust you'll handle it wisely. But don't forget yourself in the process. I nodded, appreciating her loyalty. She had always been consistent, a sharp contrast to everyone else in my life. Her presence was grounding even as anger and anticipation pulsed through me. Later I entered my parents' home. Their eyes widened when they saw me. Shock, disbelief, and a superficial pride flickered across their faces. Alex! Mom exclaimed, voice high and sweet. You look, well. Thank you, I said smoothly, stepping into the room. I thought I'd stop by. Valentines seemed appropriate. Dad's gaze lingered on my tailored suit, the watch on my wrist, the confidence in my posture. Alex, you've changed, he muttered. I have, I said simply. Years teach lessons. Some harder than others. Ethan scoffed, leaning against the staircase, arms crossed. Look at you, little brother. All grown up and flashy. Still, trying to impress everyone I see. I smiled, a slow, deliberate curve. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm here to observe. See how things have changed. Ethan laughed, smug as ever. Nothing's changed. You're still, you. I studied him, noting his arrogance, his ignorance. This was exactly the version of him I remembered, complacent, cocky, overconfident. Perfect for subtle disruption. Dinner began and I sat with Sophie beside me. She caught my eye once, a subtle signal, and I understood immediately. She knew my intentions even if she didn't approve entirely. Alex, Mom said, clinking her glass. It's good to have you home. You've done well for yourself, I suppose? I've done what I needed to, I replied, voice calm, even measured. Success isn't always about approval. Sometimes it's about proving to yourself that you can rise above expectations. Dad nodded, hesitant. Yes, of course. That's admirable. Ethan smirked. Spoken like someone who thinks he's better than everyone else. Typical Alex. I let it slide, leaning slightly closer to Sophie. Some things never change, I murmured, quiet enough for only her to hear. After dinner, as everyone mingled, I walked the house slowly, observing. Every photograph, every framed certificate, every smug glance. It all fueled the quiet storm inside me. Later, in the privacy of the study, I whispered to Sophie. It's worse than I remembered. They reward arrogance and blind pride, ignore substance, ignore growth. It's pathetic. She put a hand on my arm. And yet, they're still family. Don't let them poison you completely. I won't, I said. But they've underestimated me for too long. It's time to show them how wrong they were. Without obvious confrontation. Subtlety works best. She nodded, eyes wary. I trust you to be careful. But, don't lose yourself in revenge. I won't, I said again, though the fire inside me flared brighter. Revenge wasn't just satisfaction. It was a test of control, patience, strategy. Every glance from Ethan, every shallow smile from my parents, every whispered compliment at the wrong person. It was all ammunition. That night, I stood by the window, looking at the city skyline I'd once fled. The streets seemed familiar, yet I was different. Stronger. Smarter. Calculated. I whispered into the night, this is just the beginning. Every move I make from now on, I control. Every smile, every word, every subtle nudge, they won't see it coming. Not until it's too late. And as the city slept, I planned quietly, deliberately, savoring the anticipation of subtle schemes and the unfolding of long-awaited justice. I learned quickly that money doesn't just buy comfort. It buys access, silence, loyalty, and most importantly, attention. People leaned toward me now when I spoke. They listened. They laughed at pauses that weren't even jokes. That alone told me everything about how easy manipulation could be. You're quieter tonight, Isabella said, lifting her glass and watching me over the rim. That usually means you're planning something unpleasant. I smiled. You say that like it's a flaw. She laughed softly. No. I say it like it's familiar. We were sitting in a private lounge overlooking the city. Soft lighting, expensive drinks, conversations muted by money. This was my world now. I had built it carefully, layer by layer, lie by lie. You've changed, Isabella continued. The boy who needed guidance is gone. I didn't disappear, I said. I adapted. She leaned closer. And what are you adapting for now? I glanced out the window, watching the city glow beneath us. Correction. I'm not adapting anymore. I'm directing. Isabella's smile sharpened. Good. Because Ethan is getting sloppy. That name still stirred something in me. Not pain anymore. Not jealousy. Just a steady, cold focus. What did he do? I asked. He talked, she said. Too much. At the charity dinner last night. He implied his success was self-made. I scoffed. That's his favorite fantasy. Yes, she replied calmly, but he said it in front of people who know better. Investors. Social climbers. They're starting to question him. I turned to her. And you? I encouraged the questioning, she said without hesitation. I studied her face. Isabella never blinked when she admitted things like that. That was why she was dangerous. and useful. Careful, I said. If you push too hard, he'll panic. That's the point, she replied. Panicked people make mistakes. Mistakes can be guided. I nodded slowly. Good. But we don't expose him yet. Not publicly. She tilted her head. You're protecting him? No, I said. I'm protecting the timing. She smiled again. I like when you say things like that. There was a pause. Not awkward. Charge. You still think about Sophie? She said suddenly. I didn't answer immediately. You always do that, she added. That silence. It's louder than denial. I exhaled. She represents something I don't allow myself to want anymore. And what's that? Unconditional loyalty, I said. The kind that doesn't ask what it gets in return. Isabella's eyes softened for half a second. And you think that makes her weak? No, I said. It makes her dangerous to me. She leaned back. Because she reminds you of who you were. I didn't respond. She watched me carefully. You're afraid that if you choose her, you'll lose the edge. I can't afford softness, I said. Not now. Or ever, she pressed. I stood up. This conversation is drifting. She laughed lightly. Everything drifts back to truth eventually. Later that night, I found Sophie at a small gathering downtown. Nothing extravagant. Just people pretending not to watch each other. You always arrive late, she said when she saw me. I prefer entrances with context, I replied. She smiled, but her eyes were cautious. You've been busy. I've been efficient. That's not what I asked. I took a step closer. Then ask it again. She hesitated. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. Happy is a luxury term, I said. I'm fulfilled. She shook her head. That's not the same thing. No, I admitted. It's better. She studied me. You sound like someone trying to convince himself. I lowered my voice. And you sound like someone who wants answers she won't like. She didn't back away. I want honesty. I laughed quietly. Honesty is expensive. Are you sure you can afford it? Her expression hardened. I never needed your money, Alex. I know, I said. That's what scares me. She crossed her arms. You're pushing people away on purpose. I'm protecting them. From what? She asked. From becoming collateral, I replied. She stepped closer. Or from seeing what you've become. I met her gaze. You already see it. There was a long pause between us. Ethan's been asking about you, she said carefully. Of course he has. He feels threatened. I smiled. Good. She frowned. You enjoy this too much. I enjoy balance, I said. For a long time the scales were tilted. And now, she asked. Now I decide who falls. Her eyes widened slightly. That's not justice. No, I agreed. It's control. She looked away. That's not the man I believed in. I softened my tone. Belief is dangerous. It creates expectations. And you hate disappointing people, she said bitterly. I hate being underestimated, I corrected. Across the room I noticed Ethan watching us. His smile was forced. His posture stiff. I leaned towards Sophie. Watch carefully. She whispered, Watch what? This, I said. I raised my glass toward Ethan. He hesitated, then nodded back. Polite. Public. That's the first crack, I murmured. He knows I'm not here to reconnect. Sophie whispered, You're playing with people. Yes, I said calmly. Because they played with me first. She looked at me like she was losing me in real time. And what about Isabella? What about her? I asked. She doesn't look at you like a partner, Sophie said. She looks at you like a weapon. I smiled faintly. That's because I am. And what am I to you? She asked quietly. I didn't answer right away. That silence again, she said. You're afraid to say it. I leaned in. You're the reminder of what I sacrificed. Her voice trembled. And was it worth it? I looked past her at Ethan, laughing too loudly with people who didn't respect him. Yes, I said. Because this time, I'm the one deciding who bleeds quietly. She stepped back, hurt flashing across her face. I watched her walk away, knowing exactly what I was doing. And still it didn't hurt any less. Ethan knew something was wrong before he could prove it. I saw it in the way his laughter came half a second late, in how his eyes searched rooms before his smile arrived. Fear changes posture first. Confidence collapses quietly. You look tense, he said to me at the bar, forcing casual into his voice. Big night doing that to you? Only when the stakes matter, I replied. He smirked. They always matter to you. That's why I win, I said. He took a drink, watching me over the glass. People are saying strange things. People always do, I said. Especially when they're bored. He leaned closer. They're saying my numbers don't add up. I raised an eyebrow. Do they? He stiffened. You'd know. I would, I said calmly. If I cared. His jaw tightened. You've been circling my investors. I talk to everyone, I said. That's networking. That's interference, he snapped. I smiled. Only if you're hiding something. He stared at me, anger and uncertainty colliding in his eyes. You think you're smarter than me? I know I'm more prepared, I replied. Across the room, my parents were greeting guests like proud royalty, soaking in borrowed prestige. My mother laughed too loudly. My father stood taller than he had any right to. They still didn't know what tonight was. You planned this, Ethan said quietly. I plan everything, I replied. That's the difference between us. He scoffed. You always were dramatic. And you were always protected, I said. Let's see how you stand without it. He turned away, jaw clenched, already unraveling. Isabella appeared at my side like a shadow that knew where to fall. He's sweating, she murmured. Stage 1 complete. Good, I said. Has the press arrived? Front row, she replied. And hungry. Perfect. She studied my face. You're calm. I've rehearsed this moment for years, I said. Emotion would only slow me down. She leaned closer. And after? I looked toward my parents. After comes the damage I can't undo. She didn't ask more. Isabella never asked questions she already knew the answers to. Sophie found me near the balcony. Her eyes searched my face like she was bracing for impact. Something bad is coming, she said. Yes, I replied. You're enjoying this, she accused. No, I said. I'm committed to it. She shook her head. That's worse. Tonight is about truth, I said. She laughed bitterly. Public truth or private revenge? I met her gaze. They're the same now. She grabbed my arm. Your parents are here. I invited them, I said. Her grip tightened. Alex, don't do this. I already have, I replied. She lowered her voice. You don't have to destroy them to prove your worth. I'm not proving anything, I said. I'm correcting history. She looked at me like she was losing me again. You're about to become the thing you hated. I leaned in. I already did. The difference is I'm honest about it. The lights dimmed slightly. A signal. The host stepped onto the stage, voice bright with manufactured warmth. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, thank you for celebrating love, success and vision tonight. Isabella glanced at her watch. 30 seconds. Ethan stood near my parents now, whispering urgently. My mother's smile faltered. My father frowned. What's happening? Sophie asked. Accountability, I replied. The host continued, tonight, we honor innovation and integrity in leadership. I took a slow breath. And we begin, the host said, with a special presentation. The screen behind him lit up. Ethan's face drained of color. Financial charts appeared. Inconsistencies highlighted in red. Dates. Transfers. Silent proof. What is this? My father whispered loudly. Ethan shook his head. This is misleading. The host spoke calmly. These figures represent discrepancies in reported earnings across multiple ventures. Murmurs spread like wildfire. My mother clutched my father's arm. Ethan? Ethan turned toward me, eyes blazing. You did this. I stepped forward. I corrected the record. He lunged toward me, but security intercepted him easily. You ruined me, he shouted. I met his fury with calm. You built this on lies. My father stared at the screen, then at me. Alex, what is this? I looked at him fully for the first time that night. This is what you never bothered to check. My mother's voice trembled. Why are you doing this? Because you taught me silence, I said. And I learned to speak fluently. Ethan struggled against security. They favored me because I succeeded. I laughed softly. They favored you because it was easier than believing in me? The host tried to regain control. Please, let's remain. No, I said loudly. Let's remain honest. All eyes turned to me. I watched you celebrate him while you dismissed me, I said to my parents. Tonight, you get to watch the truth do the same. My mother covered her mouth. We didn't know. You didn't want to, I replied. My father's voice cracked. You planned this humiliation. Yes, I said. Publicly. Precisely. Permanently. Sophie whispered behind me, Alex, stop. I shook my head. I'm finishing this. Ethan screamed, you were always jealous. I turned to him. I was always ignored. Silence fell heavy. For the first time, my parents looked at me without comparison. Without dismissal. With regret. And it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing at the edge of something I couldn't step back from. The silence after destruction is always louder than the chaos before it. I learned that in the days following Valentine's night, no headlines screamed my name. No dramatic confrontations followed me home. Just consequences unfolding quietly, exactly as planned. You didn't touch the files after the event? Sophie asked. No, I said. They didn't need me anymore. She watched me carefully. That scares me. It should, I replied. It means the truth stands on its own now. We sat in a cafe far from the noise, her fingers wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. Ethan hasn't called, she said. He won't, I replied. Pride bleeds privately. You ruined him. I exposed him, I corrected. There's a difference. She exhaled slowly. Is there? Before I could answer, my phone vibrated. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Speak of karma. I answered without hesitation. You're late. His voice sounded hollow. You planned this too. I planned nothing, I said. I just stopped protecting you. He laughed bitterly. My accounts are frozen. Investors pulled out. Everyone's acting like they never knew me. That's how accountability works, I replied. You destroyed my career. You built it on borrowed trust, I said. I reclaimed mine. There was a long pause. You enjoyed this. No, I said. I survived it. He hung up. Sophie stared at me. Do you feel anything? I searched myself before answering. Relief. And something close to regret. That's not victory, she said softly. It's honesty, I replied. Later that night my father called. Alex, he said, voice heavier than I remembered. We need to talk. I know, I replied. We should have listened to you. Silence stretched between us. I don't need apologies, I said. I needed recognition. Years ago. We failed you, he admitted. Yes, I said. You did. My mother took the phone. Her voice shook. Ethan hasn't left his room. He needs to face himself, I said. You could help him. I already did, I replied. By stopping him. She whispered, you've changed. I grew, I said. You just weren't watching. When the call ended, Sophie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You won, she said. I shook my head. No. I finished. She frowned. That sounds worse. Maybe, I admitted. But it's quieter. The next message came from Isabella. They're falling faster than expected. I replied, then stepped back. She responded, you're letting go. I stared at the screen before typing. I'm choosing what matters. Sophie watched me type. Is that growth or exhaustion? Both, I said. The days passed with updates I didn't seek but couldn't avoid. Daniel's firm dissolved. Ethan's name vanished from invitations. My parents withdrew from public life. You feel guilty, Sophie said one evening. I feel responsible, I replied. That's not the same thing. It is when you understand cause and effect. She studied me. Do you still hate them? I thought of the boy I had been. The silence. The dismissal. The hunger to be seen. No, I said finally. I don't have the energy. She smiled faintly. That's new. So is peace, I replied. She leaned back. You know, power isn't what you did to them. I waited. It's that you stopped needing them to suffer. Her words settled deeper than any victory had. That night, alone in my apartment, I looked at my reflection. Not broken. Not triumphant. Just aware. I whispered to myself, I'm not that boy anymore. And for the first time it didn't feel like a threat. The city looked different when I stopped seeing it as a battlefield. I stood by the window in my office, watching traffic move like blood through veins I no longer needed to cut open to feel alive. You're early, Sophie said behind me. I didn't want to miss this version of the morning, I replied. She set her bag down slowly. You sound like someone who finally slept. I did, I said, without checking my phone. She smiled. That might be your biggest victory. I turned to face her. I didn't bring you here to celebrate. I know, she said. You brought me here to decide. I nodded. I'm done letting the past speak for me. She crossed her arms. And what does the present say? That I want something real, I replied. Not earned through leverage or timing. She studied my face. You don't look like you're asking for permission. I'm asking for honesty, I said. She exhaled. Then be ready to hear it. I am. She walked closer. I stayed because I believed in who you could be. Not who you became when you were angry. And now? I asked. Now I see both, she said. And I need to know which one chooses me. I do, I said immediately. Without strategy. Without armor. She tilted her head. That's new. So am I replied. My phone buzzed. Isabella's name. Sophie glanced at it. You're not running from this? No, I said, answering the call on speaker. What's up? Isabella's voice was sharp but tired. Boards locked in. Expansion approved. No resistance. Good, I said. Then we pause. There was a beat of silence. Pause? Yes, I said. Stability matters more than dominance now. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Isabella sighed. You've changed. I've chosen, I replied. She hesitated. We're still aligned? We always were, I said. Just not addicted anymore. She laughed softly. You won, Alex. I'm done winning, I said. I'm building. After the call ended, Sophie shook her head. You turned down power. I redirected it, I said. She looked out the window. Your parents called me. I stiffened. What did they say? They asked if you were happy. I let out a slow breath. That's new. They want to see you. Do you think I should? I asked. That depends, she said. Are you still waiting for something from them? I thought of Ethan. Quiet. Broken. Human. No, I said. I think they are. Later that afternoon I met my father alone. You look well, he said. So do you, I replied. He nodded awkwardly. Ethan is working again. Small job. Honest. That's good, I said. He talks about you, my father said. With humility. I didn't respond. I won't ask for forgiveness, he continued. I know I don't deserve it. I don't need apologies, I said. I needed boundaries. He swallowed. We crossed them. Yes, I said. But I don't live there anymore. He looked relieved and wounded at the same time. You're free. So are you, I replied. When I left, my mother didn't stop me. She just said, I hope you choose peace. I already have, I said. That evening Marcus called. You survived, he said. I evolved, I replied. He chuckled. You finally learned the lesson I never taught. What's that? Power that costs your soul isn't power, he said. I smiled. I figured it out late. Late is better than never, he said. What's next? I looked at Sophie waiting by the door. Life. When the call ended, she stepped closer. That sounded final. It was, I said. She searched my face. Then say it. I choose you, I said. Not because I need you. Because I want you. She didn't answer immediately. Then she smiled, slow and certain. Then let's build something that doesn't burn, she said. That night, I stood on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly. I didn't feel like a king. I felt like a man who had stopped running. I whispered to the skyline, I'm ready. And for once, the future didn't feel like revenge waiting to happen.